There is a promise that goes around every spring, and you have almost certainly met it. 100 pounds of potatoes out of 4 square feet of ground. Build a wooden bin about the size of a bushel basket. Put your seed potatoes in the bottom, and as the plants come up, you keep adding soil and straw and boards until the thing stands as tall as your waist. Then in the autumn, you pull one board off the bottom, and the potatoes come pouring out into a basket. You have seen the picture. Everybody has seen that picture. I built one. I want you to know that before I say anything else, because I am not about to stand here and tell you about a thing I have only read about. I built the bin out of pallet boards in the spring. I put in good seed. I added the soil the way it said. I kept it watered through July when it was dry, and I did it carefully because Esther was watching and because I had told the neighbor what I was doing. I will tell you exactly how it looked because that is the part the pictures never show you. By the middle of July, that bin was a fine thing to walk past. 3 feet of green standing out the top of it, thick and dark and healthy, and every time I added a layer of soil, the plants pushed straight up through it in a few days and carried on. Esther's brother came by in August and stood looking at it with his hands behind his back for a good while and said it was the tallest potato he had ever seen. That is what makes this trick so convincing all summer. The top of the plant does everything you hoped for. All the disappointment is underground, and it stays hidden until the day you have already committed the season. In the autumn, I pulled the boards off. I got back a little more than I put in the ground. Not much more. There were potatoes in the bottom foot of that bin, where the seed had gone, and above that there was 3 feet of very good soil with roots running through it, and nothing else at all. And I stood there, and I thought, what I expect you thought, if you have ever tried this, that I had done something wrong, that I had watered it badly, or filled it too fast, or picked the wrong sort, or that a man who has grown potatoes his whole life had somehow got this one thing wrong. My name is Gideon Riehl. I am 65 years old. I have farmed the same ground in Lancaster County the whole of my life, and there has been a potato row in this garden every single one of those years. The garden itself is Esther's. In our settlement, the vegetable ground is the woman's ground. She plans it, and she decides where things go. But the potatoes have always been mine to dig because it is heavy work, and she has better things to do than that. 2 things are coming that you should stay for. The first is why that bin failed, and I will tell you now that it had nothing to do with your hands or with mine. It is one thing about the plant itself. It takes 20 seconds to explain, and once you have it, you will never wonder about this again. The second is that I am going to defend the bin at the end of this. Not the promise, the bin. Because the people who build them are not fools, and there is a real problem underneath all this that nobody addresses honestly. But first, where the promise comes from, because there is no villain in this story, and I want to be careful there. As far as anyone has been able to trace it, it goes back to a newspaper piece out of Seattle about 20 years ago now. It was one article, and it has been walking around ever since, from garden column to garden column, and every time it gets repeated, it gets a little more certain, because the man repeating it read it somewhere, and the man he read it from read it somewhere. And here is the thing that ought to have stopped it, and did not. In 20 years, nobody has produced a photograph of a working one. Not a photograph of the bin, those are everywhere. A photograph of the harvest. 100 pounds of potatoes sat on the ground next to the bin they came out of. There are people who have gone looking for that picture on purpose and come back empty-handed. And think for a second about how easy that picture would be to take and how much anybody who had it would want to take it. 100 pounds of potatoes is a spectacle that is 2 full bushel baskets, and then some, heaped, that a grown man would struggle to carry in one trip. Anybody who had actually done it would have that photograph on their wall. 20 years, thousands of people trying, and not one such picture. That absence is the loudest fact in this whole business, and it took me far too long to notice it. When somebody did put it to the test properly, they got about 10 pounds of potatoes back from 3 pounds of seed, which is not a triumph at all. That is worse than what an ordinary row will do for you, with no bin, no boards, and no straw. So let me give you the real number, and it is not mine. The services at the state universities, the extension services, the ones that publish the growing bulletins, put a potato row at somewhere between 1 and 2 pounds for every foot of row. Call it 2 pounds a foot on decent ground in a decent year. That comes out at 150 to 300 pounds from 100 feet of row. Now hold the two of those side by side for a moment, because the difference is not what people think it is. 100 pounds out of 4 square feet against 200 pounds out of 100 feet of row. The row wins on total weight, obviously, but look at the ground each one is standing on. The row is using a strip 100 feet long. The bin is claiming to beat that in a square the size of a kitchen table. When a number sits that far out of line with everything around it, the number is usually the problem and not the world. And there is an older way of checking a potato claim that will serve you for the rest of your life, and it takes no equipment. Weigh your seed going in. A potato row that is doing its job gives you back something like 8 or 10 times the weight of the seed you buried. That is the ordinary honest return, and it has been the ordinary honest return for a very long time. So when somebody puts a bin in front of you, do not argue about the bin. Ask what went in and what came out. That test on the bin I mentioned gave back about 3 times the seed. Not a disaster. You did get more than you planted, but a third of what plain ground does with no boards, no straw, and no lifting. So why does it fail? And here it is, and it is not about technique. There are 2 kinds of potato, and they are built differently underground. The first kind sets its tubers in one layer, close to where the seed potato was lying, and that is the end of it. The plant has already decided early where its potatoes are going to be. It does not care how much soil you pile on top of it afterwards. It does not care how tall you build the bin. It does not care how carefully you did it. There is simply nowhere new for a potato to form, because the plant does not make new places once it has made its decision. The second kind keeps going. As the stem grows up, it keeps setting tubers along it, layer after layer, and every time you bury a bit more of that stem, you have handed the plant another chance to put potatoes there. That is a real thing, and it really works. And I want to explain why burying a stem can grow potatoes at all, because once you see it, the whole business makes sense, and you stop needing anybody to tell you anything. People say root vegetable, and about this one, they are wrong. A potato is a piece of swollen stem, an underground branch that got fat with starch instead of growing leaves. That is why it has eyes on it, and eyes are buds, and buds are a stem thing. A carrot has no eyes. A beetroot has no eyes. So when you bury more stem, you are burying more of the part that is capable of making potatoes in the first place. And that is exactly why the bin idea sounds so sensible when somebody explains it to you. It is a good idea that runs straight into a wall, and the wall is that most varieties stop making those underground branches once they have made their set. You can see the difference for yourself at the end of the season, and I would rather you saw it than took my word. Dig one plant carefully with a fork and lay the whole thing out on the ground the way it came up. If every potato is clustered in one handful around where the seed was, you have got the first kind, and no amount of hilling was ever going to change that. If they are strung up the stem at 2 or 3 heights, you have got the second, and that plant will pay you back for every inch you cover. The bin is built for the second kind. Most of what people plant is the first kind. That is the whole of it. You did not water it wrong. You did not fill it too fast. You did not pick a bad spot or lose your touch. You did everything the instructions asked of you correctly to a plant that is physically incapable of doing what was being asked. And I will say plainly that when I understood this, some years after the fact, I was more annoyed about the 2 summers I spent blaming myself than about the potatoes. There is a second thing working against that bin, and it is worth knowing even if you never build one. A tall, narrow column of soil dries out from every side at once, and it drains straight down and away, and a potato that goes short of water while it is filling out its tubers will give you small ones or hollow ones or none. On top of that, 3 feet of soil stacked over a plant is 3 feet of soil the plant now has to feed out of, and there is not much in fresh added dirt and straw for it to feed on. So even the varieties that could climb are being asked to do it thirsty and hungry. In the ground, none of that happens. The soil either side holds the water, the deep earth underneath holds more, and the plant has the whole bed to feed in. Now I have to be honest with you about the awkward part, and it is genuinely awkward. You cannot tell which kind you have got by the name on the bag. I have looked. The classification is not standardized. The seed catalogs almost never print it, and if you go looking, you will find the very same variety listed as one kind in one place and the other kind in another. Kennebec turns up on both lists depending on who is writing. So anybody who reads you a confident list of names is doing something I am not going to do. But there is something they do print on every bag, every time: days to maturity. And it tracks well enough to be useful. An early potato, 70 to 90 days, behaves like the first kind, the one that sets a single layer and stops. A late one, 110 to 135 days, behaves like the second, the one that keeps setting as it climbs. That is on the bag in the shop, in small print on the back, and it is the best answer any of us have got. And even that is a tendency, not a promise. Soil and weather push it about. What I am giving you is a way to guess well, not a guarantee, and I would rather hand you an honest guess than a confident list that falls apart the first time somebody checks it. Now the second thing, and it matters more than the first for most of you, because I have just spent 10 minutes telling you that piling soil on a potato may do nothing, and somebody is about to conclude that hilling is a waste of time. It is not, and here is why. You hill for the light. A potato that comes up into daylight turns green, and green in a potato means it has made something you should not eat. It goes bitter, and it is not good for you, and there is no clever way around it. The green part is not a stage it grows out of, and it does not cook out either. The rule in this house is simple, and it has never needed amending. Green goes to the pigs, and if there are no pigs, it goes on the heap. Nobody stands at the sink debating how much of it to cut away. And it does not take much sun to do it. A potato that has worked its way to the surface and sat there a week in August will have a green shoulder on it, and that is a potato you grew and fed all summer and now cannot eat. That is the whole argument for hilling, and it is enough on its own. So you keep them covered. That is the job. On a late variety, you may be adding potatoes at the same time, and good luck to you. On an early one, you are not adding a thing to the harvest, and you still hill, because otherwise a share of what you did grow is not fit for the table. The way we do it is plain. When the tops are up about the height of your hand, you draw the soil from between the rows up over the row with a hoe, and you leave the green sticking out the top. Then you do it again when they have grown up out of it, and maybe a third time. 3 is usually the end of it. And what you are building is not a tower. It is a low ridge with the plants running along the crest of it, and the furrow you have taken the soil from becomes the path you walk on, and the channel the rain runs down. Which brings me to why our potatoes go in a row at all, and not in a square. Walk into any garden in this settlement, and you will see the same thing: long straight lines running the length of the ground. Beans, tomatoes, potatoes, sweet corn, all of it lined up. Esther would tell you tidiness is reason enough, and she would have a point. But the working reason is that somebody walks between those rows with a hoe every week from May to September. And a row is a shape you can walk. A square bed you have to lean across, and what you cannot reach comfortably, you stop reaching. And what you stop reaching goes to weeds by August. And the row does something else for a potato in particular. It gives you the furrow. You cannot hill a plant in the middle of a square bed because there is nowhere to take the soil from without robbing the plant beside it. In a row, the soil you need is lying in the path, and the path wants lowering anyway. Row and hilling are one idea, not two. That is why potatoes have been grown in rows for as long as anybody has been growing them, on every farm in every country, and it is not because nobody thought of a box. The ridge earns its keep a third way as well, and you notice it in a wet year. Water runs off a ridge and stands in a furrow, which means the potato itself is sitting above the wet instead of in it. And a potato sitting in standing water for a week will rot in the ground, and you will not know until you dig it. In a flat bed, there is nowhere for that water to go, and everything is at the same level, including your crop. The ridge is drainage, light protection, and a place to put the hoe, all out of one movement, made 3 times a summer with a tool that costs nothing to run. As for how they go in, a hand's depth to start, and about a foot between one seed potato and the next along the row, with the rows themselves far enough apart that a person can walk down them without treading on the ridge. Call it a good stride. That spacing is not fussiness. If you crowd them, every plant makes small ones, and you will have grown the same weight of potato in a less useful shape. Now I said I would defend the bin, and I am going to. The person who builds one is not a fool and is not greedy. He is somebody with a small yard, or a paved one, or a rented one, and he has looked at a photograph of 100 feet of potato row and understood perfectly well that he has not got 100 feet of anything. The bin is an answer to a real problem. Space is the honest constraint in most gardens in this country, and it is a much bigger constraint than skill or seed or anything else people sell you a fix for. So let me answer his question properly instead of pretending the question is stupid. What will 4 square feet of good ground actually give you? On the numbers above, 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a foot, 4 square feet being roughly 4 feet of a narrow row, you're looking at something like 6 to 8 pounds. Maybe 5 in a poor year, maybe 10 in a good one, with a late variety, and everything going right. That is a sack of potatoes. That is several suppers out of a space the size of a doormat, and it is a perfectly good, perfectly honest result. It is not a failure. It only looks like a failure standing next to a number that was never real. And if a container is all you have got, then everything I have told you tonight points at one piece of advice, and it is the opposite of the bin. Go wide and shallow, not tall and narrow. If the plant is going to set its potatoes in one layer at one depth, and most will, then what you want is as much of that one layer as you can give it. A low tub 3 feet across will beat a tower 3 feet high every time, because the tower is offering height to a plant that wanted width. Same soil, same water, same work, and the harvest sits where the plant was always going to put it. I did not invent that one. It follows straight from what the plant does. And I owe you one more piece of honesty about my own side of this. There is no published figure for what an Amish garden yields. Nobody has counted it, and I am not going to invent one because it would suit me. Everything I have given you tonight that has a number attached comes from those university bulletins, and everything else is one man's 50 years on one piece of ground. Take it as that. So step back and look at what the trouble with that promise actually is. It is not the size of the number. It is that the number hands you the blame. 100 pounds from 4 square feet is achievable, says the article. So when you get 9, the arithmetic points at you. And you put the bin away and you decide quietly that you are not much good at potatoes, and maybe you do not plant any next year. That is the real cost of it, and it is paid by exactly the people who are trying hardest. Now, 4 things you might do, and everyone is free. First, before you buy seed this year, turn the bag over and find the days to maturity, and now you know what that number is telling you. Second, if you have got space, put them in a row rather than a bed, and leave yourself a furrow you can take soil from. Third, hill them when the tops are a hand high, and again after, and know that you are doing it for the light and not for the count. And fourth, if you have only got a doormat's worth of ground, plant the doormat and expect 6 or 8 pounds, and be pleased with them. Because that is the sentence I would have you take away, and it is not really about potatoes. When a number promises you far more than everything standing around it, check the number before you check yourself. Now do something for me in the comments, because I read them and my grandson reads out the ones I miss. If you have ever built one of these bins, tell me what you got out of it. Honestly, even if it was nothing, and the state you're in beside it. Nothing else. I have a notion that between us, we will have more real numbers in that comment section by the weekend than that promise has collected in 20 years. One more thing before I go. I have been telling you tonight about a plant that only gives you what it decided to give you back in June. There is something else in this garden that works the other way about. The more you take from it, the more it makes. And if you stop taking it, stops giving and shuts down for the year. Most folks grow it and never learn that, and they get about a third of what is standing there. Next time, I will take you down that row and show you which one it is and how it is picked. Turn the bag over before you buy this year. That is all I have got for you today. I will see you next time.